Hello, this is and I am Kitty Hollywood. Now today's review is of a film that almost made a success of a 3D musical. It's MGM's 1953 lavish Technicolor spectacle Kiss Me, Kate. It was produced by Jack Cummings, it was directed by George Sidney. It's a filmic adaptation of Cole Porter's Broadway musical, Kiss Me, Kate. The book for that was written by Sam and Bella Spiewak. The screenplay for this film is by Dorothy Kingsley. The cinematography is by Charles Rocha. The beautiful, beautiful costumes are by Walter Plunkett. It stars Howard Keel, Kathryn Grayson, Ann Miller and Tommy Rall. It's basically a show within a show retelling of The Taming of the Shrew by W. Shakespeare. Tights, histrionics, and dancing ensue. Now, first and foremost, I review old movies. They were made in a different time. This is not the most PC musical you will ever see. It was made in the 50s. The feminist flag is not flying high. I've said it. It's out there.
We will have rings and things in fine array. And kiss me, Kate. All right, Miss Vanessa. You asked for it and you're going to get it.
Fred, what are you doing?
What had happened a bit before this was that a musical had been written by a duo called Rodgers and Hammerstein, a little musical by the name of Oklahoma. And it revolutionized musical theatre by incorporating the songs into the fabric of the story. So it wasn't action, song, action, song. And this was an amazing thing. It had been done before, but this show was such a success that it was quite remarkable and everyone realised things were changing. Cole Porter had been writing commercially since about 1915, but things had not been going great guns for him in the 40s, and he realised that his writing style was going to have to change if he was going to succeed in this new era. Kiss Me, Kate is really basically his biting of his thumb at everyone who said he was a washed-up cripple. It's huge 1948 Broadway success just made it ripe for the pickings for Hollywood. Howard Keel and Kathryn Grayson were both big MGM stars, although interestingly, apparently, MGM tried really hard to get Deanna Durbin out of Parisian retirement to star in this show. She said no. It would have been a really interesting film if she had been in it, actually. Anyway, Ann Miller was their resident star tapper. Look, the role of Bianca was changed for her. It had much more of a dancing focus as a result of her particular skills there. So that's a big change from the Broadway musical to the filmic musical. And Tommy Rall was this sort of extraordinary performer who seemed to be able to put his hand to anything amongst film dancers, Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, and so on and so on. He is spoken of as this man who was sort of able to achieve everything, you know, from ballet to jazz to sort of modern lyrical art. You know, I'm not a choreographer, but anyhow, he's a very impressive individual. There were two other guys called Bobby Van and, I don't know, some bloke called Bob Fosse, who were hired to be specialty dancers, and the show really took off from a dancing point of view. Now, Howard Keel and Kathryn Grayson could not dance to save their lives. Ann Miller apparently called them Tanglefoot and Twinkletoes, but it doesn't really matter at all. The other big thing that was going on at this point in time was 3D. There was TV. People were able to sit at home and be visually entertained in the comfort of their own home. Why would they bother going out? So, At that point in time, a number of lures had been designed to pull the people back into the cinema, back from one screen to another. 3D was probably the biggest of them, and it was a hell of a lot more successful than Smell-O-Vision, which came a little bit later. Anyway, shooting a film in 3D was no easy thing, and the director George Sidney recalled, "My cameraman, Charlie Rocha, and I had to compose every shot 3 different ways at the same time. What would be good for one width would not be good for another. It was tricky, but we got around it by building more tops on sets, more floor, and more sets in forced perspective to enhance the depth." Now, Kate premiered in 3D, but not across every city that it was shown in. It was really expensive to adapt the cinemas to be able to show 3D, and it meant fewer usable seats, so less intake. It ended up really mostly being screened in 2D, and that's how, you know, we got to see it as kids on television and so on. It wasn't really shown in 3D again until the 1970s when there was a re-release. But there's a newish Blu-ray 3D release of Kiss Me Kate. Now, if you can't be bothered going to the trouble, have a bit of a Google. There are a few bits and pieces out there if you have yourself a pair of red and blue 3D glasses, and it's really quite fascinating to watch. The film itself was a great success, 3D or not. I mean, it was hard for it not to be. The music and the lyrics are so sparkly, and the dancing was so spectacular. Now, originally sung by the dresser of the character Frederick Graham, the song Too Darn Hot was adapted for Ann Miller, and when you take into account her skill and her verve and the amount of 3D objects that she throws at the camera, really, how could you have anything but a smash hit? Cole Porter was renowned for his witty double entendre lyrics. He had to change some of them in order to appease the censors. According to the Kinsey report became according to the latest report, amongst others. But he did still manage to sneak a few in there.
Anytime, Harry, I dig. I dig a dick. 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 I dig a dick.
And the dancing. Well, Tommy Rall, as I've said, achieves things that you just sort of sit there with your mouth open going, how did they even do that? The film was choreographed mostly by Hermes Pan, who was a very well-known choreographer. He had an extensive working relationship with Fred Astaire for most of his films. And you can see Hermes Pan in a cameo very briefly as a sailor in Kiss Me Kate. Anyway, it was mostly choreographed by him, but he did allow a young Bob Fosse to put together what he wanted to do for his segment in From This Moment On. It came to the attention of a number of Broadway choreographers, and why wouldn't it? And Bob Fosse has said, "It only lasted 66 seconds, but it changed my life." Just watch it. Watch it for Mr. Plunkett's beautiful, beautiful costumes. I am having that yellow dressing gown of Kathryn Grayson's. Watch it for Keenan Wynn and James Whitmore, hammered up because they'd refused to learn how to dance during their rehearsals and didn't know what else to do in Brush Up Your Shakespeare. Just watch it for Cole Porter's beautiful music and lyrics. Kiss Me Kate, 10 out of 10.